Today I'm going to show you 5 things you should do with your new Sony a6600 camera to make sure you get the most out of it. The a6600 was my first ever Sony camera and it's honestly a brilliant little camera. I shoot all of my main YouTube content on it, so feel free to check out my other videos for footage examples. Now the first thing you should do with your new Sony camera is to set up the custom keys. Now I think this is one of the best things about Sony cameras is their large array of custom buttons that can be customized to all sorts of different functions and features so that they're easily accessible and you don't have to dig through the extensive Sony menus. Alright, so on my camera here, I've got the custom buttons set up to do a few different things. On the top here, I've got C1 and C2. So C1 changes my picture profile quickly. C2 turns on my focus peaking display on and off. Then we've got C3 on the back here, and that adjusts my audio record level, which is really handy when I'm just trying to make sure my audio levels are correct. Then the rocker dial here, so the top one changes my zebra display to be turned on and off, and then the bottom one turns on and off my gamma display assist. Now if none of that makes any sense to you, that's fine. The way you can customize your own keys to different functions that you want it to be customized to is to go to the menu and then custom operation 1, which is page 8 out of 9 on the second camera menu. And here you'll see you've got 3 different custom key options. The first one is custom keys that relate to your photos. The second is custom key that relates to your video. And then the last one is custom key that relates to the playback on your camera. Now, basically the way I've set it up is that the first one, the photos, I've got all my custom keys set up in there, and then the video and playback modes just follow whatever custom keys I've got set on the first one. So as you can see, they're all just set to follow the custom in the photo settings. So if we go up to the first one, custom key for photos, we can go in here and it will show you an image of all the different keys that you can set for custom modes. It's got all the buttons on the rear. Then you can also customize the buttons on your wheel on the back of the camera as well. On top, you can customize those 2 buttons. And then even on the lens, if there's a button on your lens that you can customize, you've got the ability to do that here. Then of course, if you go into your custom settings, you've got a whole range of options that you can choose from in terms of customizing that particular button to whatever you need it to be customized to. So the second thing you should do with your new camera is to set up the custom menu. Now, like I said before, the Sony menus are kind of ridiculously huge, especially if you're coming from a Canon camera. The Sony menu system can be really overwhelming. There's so many things to go through. But the great thing about Sony is that you're able to create your own custom menu that has all the settings that you regularly want to access. So you don't have to search through the entire Sony system every time you want to change like a frame rate or recording resolution or something like that. All right, so on my camera, in my menu, my custom menu, I've got stuff like record settings, file format, slow and quick settings, zebra settings, ISO settings, focus modes, and smartphone control modes. So all sorts of things that I use regularly. I just want to be able to quickly access without having to dive through the extensive Sony system. So it's super easy to customize your own menu. Just go to the My Menu settings page and then just go add item. And then you've got all the different options in terms of settings that are in your camera system. And then once you find the setting that you want to be able to add to your custom menu, select it, press enter, and then you just select where you want to put it. So for example, I might want to put it at the end of my custom menu, select OK, and then it's added. And if I go back to my custom menu, you can see here on the last page, I've got the auto review setting ready to go. So the third thing to do is to set up your custom shooting modes. Now there's a 1 and a 2 on the dial on the top of your camera, and you can customize each of these modes to pretty much whatever settings you want, which is really handy if you want to quickly change between different types of shooting. I don't shoot photo a lot, so I use a really basic 1 and 2. 1 for me has autofocus for photos, and then 2 has manual focus for photos, so I can quickly switch between manual and auto. But you literally customize them to do whatever you want. All right, so in order to set up your custom modes, it's actually pretty straightforward. All you have to do is set up the camera with the settings that you want to save as that preset. So for example, I might want to change the shutter speed to 1/8, the ISO to 2500, and then the white balance, let's change that to daylight. Now in order to save this as the preset, all you have to do is just go to menu and then shoot mode /drive 1, which is page 3 of 14 of your first shoot settings, and just go down to here to MR12 memory. And all you have to do is just select the custom number that you want to save this preset into. So for example, I might want to save this into custom preset 1, just hit 1 and it will say registered. And then from there, you can literally switch from, for example, this is custom mode 2 back to custom mode 1, and it's got all those settings that I've saved. If I go to custom mode 2, that's got all the settings I've saved for custom mode 2. And again, you can customize this to whatever you like. So you can have all sorts of different types of settings saved and ready to go on one of these custom modes. So for the fourth thing you should do, let's shift gears a bit into video and talk a bit about Sony Log. Now, Sony Log is also known as S-Log, and that is Sony's raw video format. Now, if you want to get the most out of your Sony a6600, then you should definitely be shooting in S-Log, because this maximizes your camera's dynamic range that it can capture, and it also means you can color grade your footage much more easily than if you're just shooting a regular picture profile. Now, on my 6600, I always shoot in S-Log 2 because that's pretty much what this camera is designed to shoot in. It does have the ability to shoot in S-Log 3, which is Sony's newer type of raw footage, but since this camera is not really designed for it, it's only 8-bit footage versus 10-bit, which is more what S-Log 3 is designed for. You should probably keep the camera in S-Log 2 in order to make sure the picture looks the best it can be. Alright, so in order to turn on S-Log 2 on your camera, it's super easy. Just make sure you're in the movie mode, and then from there hit the function button on the back of your camera. And here you should see an option which says picture profile. Select that and then just scroll down to picture profile 7. This should be preset to S-Log 2 and the color mode should be S-Gamut. And that's it, you're ready to shoot in S-Log. Now, if it doesn't show up in that function area, all you have to do is go to menu and then color white balance image processing 1, which is 11 of 14, and just go down here to picture profile, and then that brings up the same menu. Just find picture profile 7, hit enter, and then your camera is in S-Log 2. Now, the very last thing you should do, in my opinion, with your new Sony a6600 is to just go out and shoot a whole bunch of content. Shoot some video, shoot some photos, and just get a bunch of test footage. And kind of the idea for me is just to get familiar with the new camera. When I first got my Sony, I set it up in my YouTube studio, which is where I shoot most of my content with this camera, and just shot a whole bunch of different scenarios with different lighting setups and different apertures and ISO values, just to sort of get a feel for what works with the camera, what doesn't work as well, the different settings I can use and access. And then of course I played around a lot with color grading the footage because it was my first time really working with raw footage. And I think this is particularly important if you're going to use this for any sort of professional work. You want to obviously be really familiar with your gear before you take it out on a professional shoot where you're getting paid. But even if you're a content creator like myself, it's always really valuable to make sure you're getting your gear up to scratch and you're really familiar with it before you actually use it for the content that you're putting out there into the world. But most of all, just have fun. I've had so much fun with this camera over the last probably 2 years that I've had it, and I've gotten so much use out of it. I've honestly used it pretty much every week for the last couple of years. Hasn't let me down yet. I've even smashed it on the ground during a skateboard fall and it's still kicking. So I think you're going to have heaps of fun with your camera. If you're interested in what specific settings I use for video on my a6600, then feel free to check out this video here. But other than that, I hope you have an amazing day and I'll see you very soon in the next video.